An idea born out of Monday morning chats at the coffee machine. In this series, we chat to our guests about their going out experiences and how it shaped them.
Join us, Pippa
And Georgia,
team members at Skiddle who love going out and miss chatting about it. Welcome to episode 4 of the Going Out podcast. Today we're joined by Josh White, one half of the drum and bass duo Hybrid Minds.
we chatted to Josh about his first drum and bass night spent at Fabric, raves in fields with friends, the atmosphere in New Zealand's huge drum and bass scene, their passion for liquid, and the up-and-coming DJs they're excited about. Tune in.
Welcome to the podcast, Josh White. We've got Josh White from Hybrid Minds, who are an English electronic DJ production duo consisting of Josh White and Matthew Lowe, who's currently in New Zealand, so not joining the conversation. But welcome, Josh.
Hi guys, you all right?
Yeah, we're well. How are you?
Yeah, good. Yeah, shame Matt couldn't join us. He's halfway through quarantine at the minute.
So he's in his
locked
hotel.
in a hotel. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. Fair enough. Well, we can just ask you all the questions today. Yeah. And you're actually the first drum and bass artist that we've had, so we're really excited about this conversation because Skiddle users love drum and bass. They live for drum and bass.
Yeah, it's mad. Like, I think all of our tours and stuff have been mainly put through Skiddle, and there's the kids seem to be using Skiddle a lot, especially all the drum and bass fans. So yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah, that's good.
Currently, there's actually 15 events listed for you guys on Skiddle, which we were like, whoa, there's so much.
Mad.
Yeah, so much to look forward to though.
Yeah. So we want to kick off with basically your story. So we're not actually sure where you grew up. We couldn't really find it.
Google
to do a
was
bit of
not
research.
telling us.
But basically your first going out experiences. Where were those? Where were you going out?
Yeah. So basically, Matt's from sort of Birmingham. Now lives near Leeds. I have always lived in Hertfordshire, like in a really small little town called Tring, which is like past Watford. And there's not much going on here really. So like our first sort of going out experiences for me and my friends were probably before we were old enough to go to the pubs would have been in a field somewhere. Like there was a bit of a free party scene like when we were growing up, and we'd go out to those. And yeah, just deck set up in the field sort of stuff, which was great fun. Before that, I suppose we'd go to gigs, like live events, Reading, Leeds, those sort of festivals, which were great.
Yeah.
But like the first sort of club stuff, I don't know. As soon as me and my friends were all old enough to go to Fabric, that was the first place we went.
Oh,
wow.
nice.
That's a big place to be the first.
Normally people's first, they're a bit like a downgraded little club, but you started at like the top, which is great.
Yeah, I suppose like because there's not much to do where we live, you jump on the train and go to London. So if you're going to do that, you're going to go to Fabric. Like that's just what we all did, and it was like those early sort of 2005, I think, sort of like players, DJ Hype, Hazard, those guys doing Fabric every Friday. It was the drum and bass night. Go there once a month, and it would just be like the highlight of the month for sure.
Were you always listening to drum and bass? Was that like the first genre you really got into, or what were you listening to back in the day?
Like, I don't know. I sort of grew up on like rock music, indie music, hip hop, sort of typical like skateboard stuff. And then got into drum and bass maybe about 16, 17. My friend had some turntables and it looked cool, so I was like, I want to do that. And then just sort of really got into it, delved deeper and deeper, and got my own turntables probably when I was about 17, and got well into drum and bass then basically. And all sort of like the heavy stuff, the jump up stuff, like the fun stuff that really appeals to the younger kids that just want to go out and go mental basically. So yeah, I'd say that's sort of like how when I got like serious about this is what I want to do, and this is the music that I love, I suppose.
So when you were talking about before, when you were going to fields and you were listening to decks, were you listening to drum and bass then at that age, or was that kind of your inspirations there?
Yeah, it was sort of like, I don't know, like, you know, free party music is like a lot of techno and stuff, hard style and stuff like that. But there'd always be like one or two drum and bass DJs, and I suppose there'd always be like a friend playing, or like I'd get a set. You just stand around waiting for 6 hours with your record bag that you've carried through a field in the rain, like, and then eventually like someone lets you have a go. And that was sort of it. I suppose I was going out like a bit of a train spotter, and I was the sort of person that stands there staring, watching the DJ, which I hate now.
Off the decks, like
or just like going out to Fabric and staring at the DJ, like judging every mix. Like, how did he do that? Like,
oh, really? So you've always looked at it like that, through that kind of lens of like a fellow DJ?
Yeah, and just like studied them, which I hate. When I DJ, there's nothing worse than someone staring at you, like. You're like, this guy's...
Back off.
It adds the pressure on, but I didn't realise at the time that's probably what I was doing, just staring at them. Like, but yeah, I loved going out, but it quite quickly turned to being a bit of an anorak, watching the DJs, who's playing, who's the best DJ, like... and sort of followed it a bit like that, I suppose.
What was Matt doing during that time?
So Matt was, I suppose that might have been before I met Matt. So he was also going out to raves. He was already producing. He was making jump up music. And we met on an internet radio station. I'm not sure the year, but we both did shows on that when we were jump up DJs. And then we ran a record label together for meeting on that, and then eventually started making music in like 2011, and that's when we pursued Hybrid Minds. But up until that, we were both like jump up DJs, like playing all the mental heavy stuff, which was actually quite fun. But yeah, he was out going to raves. It was like that. I suppose everyone was sort of doing the same thing in our scene at that time. It was just like people having a go at making music and going out to all the raves. He would have been going to the big ones in Birmingham and stuff like that, whilst I was going to Fabric.
Is there any other clubs in London that you would go to when you first started going out?
Yes, and I'll try and remember the names of them. There was like a few in Brixton. Herbal?
And these are all like drum and bass nights?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Loosely, like, I was probably a bit closed-minded when it came to dance music back then. It was like, it's drum and bass or else I'm not going.
You're a bit like that though, aren't you? Like, I know what I like, I'm going to have a good time, I'm going to stick to what I know in a way. I think that's why sometimes festivals are good, because you see all these kind of other genres around you and your friends are pulling you to different sides. But I agree, in terms of club nights, you sometimes do stick to what you know.
Yeah, and it sort of got to there, like, before then, when I was, say, 15, 16, too young to go to pubs and clubs, going to, like, Reading, and then you like, go to see a bunch of bands, and then by the end of the weekend, you're like, I spent a lot of time in the dance tent. Like, and it's sort of just like, I don't know, you just figure out what you like, don't you? By going out from a young age and then slowly sort of narrow it down to the sort of music you want to listen to. And I suppose I was just a bit serious about the music, so that it was a bit like market research and going out and listening to DJs. Like,
oh, you really put your time to good use.
Yeah,
I think so, maybe.
I mean, evidently now. Yeah. So how did you come up with the name Hybrid Minds?
See, even that's quite a bit of technical, like, hearing you talk about your music, it seems like it is a bit like you like the technical side. It's a bit like an equation almost, and even the name is quite like, reminds me of kind of that.
Yeah, I suppose it is. That was just like hitting a thesaurus really. And like, because it means like two minds, like it's two things, there's two of us.
Yeah.
There we go.
And you're a hybrid.
And then I mean, now every now and again we get like tagged in some hybrid car adverts on Instagram and shit, or get a few followers that way, which is great. but it was one of them. I think I've always found the name thing a bit lame as a thing to do as a grown-up, because it's sort of like when you play football as a kid and stuff and pretend you're different footballers, like you have like this weird name, but you just get used to them. So at first we're like, this is a bit, I don't know, is it lame? And then you just like you eventually just relax with it, I suppose.
Yeah, and I suppose no one really thinks that deeply about it. They just want to be able to refer to someone as something.
True.
Yeah. Josh and Matt probably wouldn't have been as exciting, would it?
So what drew you two together? Because you both were on the online radio show. Like, how did that progress into you actually wanted to make music together?
Well, we were chatting. This is back in like the days of AOL Messenger,
MSN.
All that stuff, and we chat a lot. I was he was a producer and DJ, and I was a DJ/graphic designer. So I do like graphic design work for like promoters and people in drum and bass and stuff. And he had a record label, and then I also had this other little record label, and then we sort of just worked together. He helped me out, I helped him out with graphic design, and then we ended up running this label together, which was called Motion Sense. And then after that, just I started to learn how to make music, and Matt was helping me learn that. And then he was making like heavy jump up stuff, and then we really wanted to make a liquid track. So the first track we made together was a track called The Place, and we released that in 2011, and it just got it did well, so we were like, okay, let's do this more often.
Let's do this again.
And then it just sort of, that's what we've been doing since 2011, so it just built.
Do you think liquid is where your heart is, or do you prefer doing the jump up stuff?
No, liquid. I mean, jump up stuff's fun to play. It's fun to go out, play music that people go mental to, but to me, always, as creating the music, making the music, it's like making nice melodic music just sort of feels right. Feels like, I don't know, it's just more interesting to us to make.
Yeah. And what was the scene like back when you released that first song? What was the drum and bass scene like? Was it quite prominent, or was it still a bit?
I don't really know. Like, it was quite underground. I'd say at the minute it's drum and bass is smashing it. And it was back then, but it was sort of underground. It was Friday nights at Fabric, and we had uploads on UKF, which is a YouTube channel that sort of got us the views. And then we just started out doing gigs everywhere, not like massive clubs, but just like random regional shows around the UK. And it's quite hard for me to remember, because there's like, the lines are blurred between when we were solo jump up DJs playing like Innovation and those sort of like jump up events in Spain and stuff, and then when did we start taking gigs as Hybrid Minds. But it was those sort of, we started playing in Room 3s and stuff, started getting more bookings, and it just slowly snowballed from there.
When was like dubstep? Because I feel like I was listening to dubstep at school, and that was like 2000.
Dubstep was a bit after, it was maybe a similar time, just a little bit after, and then that really took off, didn't it, in England? That sort of stood side by side with drum and bass for a bit, didn't it? And then went off to America, and Skrillex sort of kicked it off over there, and all the English dubstep guys were like, see ya. I'm going to America. But yeah, it was definitely around that time.
And so you were saying that you played in kind of like the regional clubs. How do the crowds differ from like the regional clubs to kind of the big clubs, or is the energy kind of still the same?
The energy's always good in smaller clubs. I mean, the massive difference back then to now is that we play softer music than other DJs in the club, and now people know the music. So we've got the confidence that we can do it, and people will know the tracks and want to hear them. But playing softer music in a club when Room 1's like got Andy C in it, and we're playing calmer tracks that people don't know, that was hard. Like, so it would be like people not going as mental as they do now to that stuff, so we had to play a lot of heavier stuff with it to keep the energy up. But it did just change from venue to venue, and country, like going out to Netherlands for the first time. That was our first gig together abroad. That was really good because our sound was doing better in Europe than it was in England. It's only like in the last 5 years or whatever that England has now become stronger than like Europe for us. But before it was like all our gigs were in Europe, really.
And what was it like going out in those Europe cities? Was there any like standout kind of just like atmospheres that you were like, this is being a DJ? Yeah, like the biggest difference was like back in the day, it's not so much like it now, but in like 2010 onwards for a bit in England, drum and bass clubs were quite moody. And there's a lot of people stood around with their arms crossed and like wondering if they're going to try and
beat you up and rob you. And like it's like quite a judgmental sort of scene. But as soon as you went to Europe, everyone danced how they wanted. Everyone was like, it was so much friendlier. And it's like that now in England, but back then it was a bit.
Yeah, that surprises me because I feel like anytime I see a drum and bass crowd, they're just going for it. So that surprises me that they used to be quite withdrawn.
Yeah, it used to be quite moody. Like there was a lot of people robbing people and stuff at raves back in the early 2000s onwards. Yeah, and in Europe it was just everyone was doing love hearts with a hand. So it was like it was really nice to go out there, and it's just exciting to go and play a gig abroad.
I bet.
Has there been any standout cities other than Amsterdam?
Now, yeah, absolutely. Vienna was always an amazing one in Europe and still is. Czechoslovakia now is smashing it, and there's just so many nice places that you just get to go and visit these nice cities and stuff.
Yeah,
we speak to a lot of people who often don't get the time really to go and see the cities. Do you get to do that whilst you're away?
Sometimes you do, and sometimes you don't. I remember going to New York and being like, sick, I'm going to get to go and look around New York, like round the city, go and take all the sights. And I landed at night, got a lift into Brooklyn, stayed in some dingy hotel. It was like pretty rough. And then straight away the next morning went straight back to the airport. And I was like, it was so sad that I was trying to see if I could see New York through the window at the airport. Like,
that's really sad.
That was
I could
like
just
the
imagine you on
sightseeing
the window, like, no.
Yeah.
As you pulling away.
Yeah, just looking at Google Images. But yeah, sometimes you get to have a look around. The promoter would take you out for lunch the next day and stuff. You do get to see some amazing cities and sites and stuff.
Yeah, I suppose we know that obviously promoters take the artists out and stuff, but it's nice to hear it as like that you get a lot from that experience as well.
Especially in Europe, like it's always funny when European artists come to England and they're like, they didn't pick me up from the airport. They didn't take me out for dinner. They didn't because in England, like back then, it was like everyone was just used to the artist showing up. You might not even say hello to them. They show up, do the gig, and they're gone. But in Europe, because you're obviously flying, you get picked up at the airport, taken out for dinner and stuff. And it's so funny to see Europeans come to England because they used to hate it.
Do they think we're like really inhospitable?
I know.
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That's a note for all you English promoters.
Yeah.
Wine and
not
dine
so
you
much
DJs.
anymore. Not so much anymore. Like changed, but like back then it was way more fun to go and play in Europe.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier about people, singing your songs back at you, and it's a bit more of like calmer. I noticed that Touch has had 22 million streams on Spotify, which is mega. What do you feel about that?
I just it's mental because it's like didn't get played anywhere, didn't get any support. I don't know how it happened. It was like I think Matt did a tour in New Zealand, and the drum and bass scene in New Zealand is like if you switch on the TV or turn on the radio, they're playing drum and bass in New Zealand. It's like
my friend lived out there and he got really into drum and bass there, and now he's back here he's like a DJ now, like a drum and bass DJ.
Yeah,
and like
it is their dance music.
Yeah, he's saying that it's massive over there.
It's so good. And it's like the other side of the planet. So the first time you go there, they know your music better than they do in England. And you're like, what the? Like, it's nuts. So Matt did a tour out there. He noticed that people were singing Touch. So he was brave. I'm not sure if I would have done this the first time. He basically pulled the track fully out.
Yeah.
And there was some footage of everyone singing it.
Yeah, we saw that on your Instagram.
Yeah, we literally watched
it made me emotional.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, it's so, and it just captures that atmosphere so well, better than any after movie, better than anything. If you just get that video clip that's just raw, sort of in the moment footage. And after that, it sort of became a thing, and people were just singing Touch. Every show Matt did that tour, he'd bring it down, people would sing it, and then that sort of started happening in England as well. And I think that's how it grew so much organically.
Yeah.
Just that sort of sing-along in the clubs.
Yeah, because that video resonated so much, like brought up so much emotion as well. I think for now, when you're not being in clubs or whatever, it's kind of like, it means so much more now.
Yeah, I can't wait to do that again. Hopefully people still sing it. Maybe we'll turn it down and
No, they will. They're not going to forget the lyrics.
I mean, 22 million streams.
Yeah.
It's mad. And it's just like, I think that played a big part in how we got to where we are now, because you can't sell an event better than footage from it.
Yeah.
Of like capturing that atmosphere. It's just, it's done us wonders. So big shout to Matt for being a brave boy.
Yeah.
Well done, Matt.
So is he touring out there alone now?
He's with our MC. They're a week into quarantine, and then they get out, and then they're doing gigs for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And then coming home.
Do you often do shows apart?
Yeah, quite often. Like, especially those like ones in New Zealand and stuff. It's like people. It used to be that like, given the choice, any promoter in Europe, do you want to pay for 2 flights or one? They're like, what? One of you is fine. And then it just sort of like, we got used to being able to do 2 gigs. One will be in Europe, one will be in England. Matt lives up in Leeds. I live down in Hertfordshire, and we just sort of like do gigs individually. But we really like been trying to, especially the bigger festivals and stuff, like make sure we both do them together and with our MC and stuff, because it's just, it can't be beat when there's just like, it's way more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always think being an MC is like...
I was literally about to say this.
I just think it's the best job ever. It just looks the funnest thing.
Like, tunes hype the crowd, but they hype the crowd, don't they?
Just having like a little...
How do you find a good MC?
Yeah.
Literally the man that I can hide behind. Like, it's brilliant. Like, I just want to sort of DJ, and so does Matt, get on with focusing on what we're doing. Having someone between you and the crowd, speaking to the crowd and stuff, worth its weight in gold. It's sort of like if I'd go to a gig and the like band didn't speak much and just played their songs and left, I'd be thinking, they're assholes. They didn't even speak to us. Like, but now it's like we don't have to do that because we've got an MC that can speak to the crowd, so no one thinks we're assholes, which is brilliant. But there's been times like when I've done a tour in New Zealand and not had an MC, and they leave a microphone next to the decks, and I'm like, I'm not saying anything. Have you seen how many people are here? Like, and especially when you're like from England and you just like,
yeah, we're like, I say drum, you say bass, and you're just like,
yeah, I can't. It would just be, I'd like pick up, be like, you all right?
Yeah, I feel like you'd be really polite, and you'd be like, how is everyone?
Yeah, it's not the vibe. So having an MC is like very important to us, because you just have to have that energy on the microphone. It changes the room.
Did you have an MC from the beginning?
Well, you'd always have MCs, and how people would book drum and bass lineups is that they'd book DJs and MCs, and you just sort of have whoever they booked. Yeah. Back in the days when we would jump up DJs, it'd be like the lineup would have 10 DJs and 30 MCs, and then there'd just be like MCs everywhere. Yeah. Like, so you always have them. And I actually met our MC Mike, who's with Matt now, at one of those raves. It was Innovation in the Sun in 2019, and I was doing sets for them because I did like artwork for them and stuff, and doing my set in room 3 or whatever. And Tempser won the MC competition that year, which was like a thing. And then he jumped on my set that night, and then we sort of recruited him a year later when we started making music, and then we've just been working with him ever since. And it's so good to have one person that just knows your music so well, can read the crowd and speak to them, as opposed to like the old school way where you just have random
I was going to say
from night to night.
So if they place you with someone and you'd not met them before, is it ever awkward?
Yeah.
And I'd be a bit annoyed
what
if they
do they do? Like, have you ever had like any bad experiences?
Bad MC experiences?
Yeah. Oh,
is
I
that
think
an
every drum and bass DJ has a few of them.
What constitutes as bad?
Well, they just don't shut up.
Oh.
And like especially when you play a lot of tracks with vocals.
Yeah, that is frustrating. Do you ever feel like just unplugging
just going
the mic?
mad? Yeah, I've turned down a few in my time, but like only sort of like turn it down slowly and sort of see if they notice at the same time, because I don't want to get punched in the face while I'm
especially
DJing.
If he's got the volume up and he's like, excuse me.
Yeah, but I did used to turn them down frequently. But I mean, at the same time, you can get surprised and really sort of vibe with one, and it's good fun. But definitely with the sort of music we're playing, where it's more, there's a lot more lyrics, you need someone that knows your music. Otherwise it's not gonna work.
Yeah, you've got a lot of like vocalists on your tracks, such as Tiffany Juno, Alexa Harley, and I was just wondering what you look for in an artist for a drum and bass track, because they're always like beautiful, like touch makes me want to cry. But in a good way.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing like that we look for, I suppose. Like someone that's like got a bit of a unique voice, usually quite soft, usually like quite indie, which is like different for drum and bass, like rather than getting like rappers and stuff, or like big dancey vocals. We want to get like more organic indie sounding vocals, so that sort of stuff. And then just people that can write good songs, like good lyrics.
So do you leave
as well?
Not leave that up to them, but do they have like the
a lot
main,
of the time? Yeah, a lot of the time, like we will send an instrumental to someone and then say, do whatever you think on this, which is a really like cool way of doing it, because you just let people, you sort of have people that you trust, that you know that can write good lyrics, and then you sometimes get sent something and it doesn't work, but sometimes you get sent something and they've done something completely different to what you had in your head, and it's amazing, and that's just like Christmas. Because it's just like, you just have to trust professionals to do their job, and when you sort of leave them to do that, that's when they do their best work. And then other times where have lyrics and then you say, can you sing this, or you'll have vocals first and then we write a track around that and then adjust it. Like it does change from track to track, but predominantly, especially in the earlier days, we would write an instrumental, have singers that we know we like, see if what they do with that is good, and then go from there.
Is that like a bit of a pinch me moment when someone like, do you ever feel moved by what they've written? Yeah,
like it's so exciting when you get an amazing vocal back. It's just because it brings the track together quite often, like especially if it's like a full vocal and you want verses, choruses and stuff rather than just a little like sample. It can really like sort of brings the track together and you're like, yes, this is now sounds finished, I suppose.
I bet it's so nice hearing from like another artist, like their interpretation of kind of your like the instrumental that you send over, like if they have creative freedom, that must be amazing hearing like their interpretation of it as well.
Yeah, it's great. It's good. It does leave us open to a lot of like myths, or it's a trial and error thing, because it's like we're quite, I suppose, hippie about it. We're like, we know we're like it when we hear it. And it's like, to some people that's just like, oh great, so you're giving me no direction here, and then we can give them direction. We can reference other tracks, so we want this to sit like this. But I mean, two out of 3 times it's good with the people we're working with.
What about like you and Matt? Do you always agree? Do you have like polar opinions sometimes on when you get them tracks back?
We tend to agree. There's times where it's like, I'm not sure on this bit or that bit. Sometimes we don't agree, and then we get a new vocal. Most of the time, especially with the tracks like Touch, it was just like, yes, brilliant. Like, but yeah, sometimes there's some back and forth. I mean, we've been working together since 2010, so we're used to just being savages of each other now.
So past friendship, you're like,
more like brothers.
Yeah,
I suppose so. And it just makes it so much easier when you can just go, yeah, that's good, but that's shit.
Yeah.
Like, and we just have that sort of bond now, I suppose, where we can do that, and it's so productive.
Do you find that when you're playing together, like you said, for the bigger festivals do you find that you're more experimental because you're playing together, or how does it differ from a set alone, or do you just try and remain consistent?
We try and contain being consistent. Like whether it's one of us or 2 of us, we play similar sets because we want to do the best set that we can with our music. The one thing is, it's so much more fun for us, because when you're stood on a stage by yourself, you're not you're not a part of the party.
Yeah.
And it's just like, everyone's down there, that's where they're having fun. Like, so when there's 2 of you, as many people on stage as you can get, you're sharing the experience. It's just more fun. It's like way more fun.
And at drum and bass events, as well, the ones that we can see you're doing and we're on that are on Skiddle, they've got massive lineups. Like, is there any particular artist that you love playing alongside?
With our headline shows, we really like programming them, because it's like we can get the people that we love that make the softer tracks that we like, they can play before us, and then we can just get like that sort of jump up demon comes out of us, and we're like, yeah, book Hazard, get like, and there's like people like Boo and stuff at the minute, all these new jump uppy heavy guys. We love hearing them play. So it's like we finish our set and then Boo can come on and tear the club an arsehole, and we can sit there like going, yeah, like just really enjoying it. So yeah, I suppose like the being able to book the sort of spectrum from the softest to the heavier stuff is just, it's really enjoyable.
And is it important to you to like champion new artists and get them involved in your events? Like, how do you go about that process?
Yeah, it is. And we love booking new artists whose music we love, and it's hard when you make Liquid, because anyone can go and play an hour of bangers and people go nuts, but to like play that softer stuff, it can be like hard to get a room, and it can be hard to read a room, because if you're on a big stage far away from the crowd, they're not all throwing limbs around and stuff, and you can get paranoid and be like, oh, is this track going down all right? But no one's left, so yeah, it obviously is. Like, you can go and do a concert where people sit down, like, still enjoy it.
Yeah.
So to get those guys to come and play sets whose music we love is quite important to us. And I suppose it's the same way we got to where we are, by playing Room Freeze, playing sort of support acts, and then people know you, and then you play somewhere else and they go see you there, and then you were playing in the small room of the club, but it was packed, and then like people will just get noticed that way, and then they just come through.
Yeah.
Would you ever dip in on these nights? Would you ever dip into the crowd and kind of, or would you get like identified, and like, do people spot you in a crowd, or can you just like forget that and dance along with everyone?
It completely depends. Like it's hard now because people want to like get a photo and stuff, and it's awkward. I don't like people watching me like work or do anything. So when you know like someone looking at you and you just stood there, get really self-conscious. I'm like, someone's watching me standing.
That mustn't be nice.
But we do. We last year, especially drum and bass has got an amazing community and then there's festivals like Let It Roll in Czechoslovakia, where it's like a gathering of all drum and bass guys, and you can just all go around festivals together, and it's really like easy. Hospitality on the Beach was like that. Not last year, because last year was lockdown, wasn't it?
It's so hard to judge now, isn't it? Like in terms of timing.
I know. Right? But the year before we did that, and we stayed there for a week, and we went to the festival every day, and it was really easy. It wasn't like people recognizing us. And I figured out, me and Matt always wear hats. I haven't for a while, but at that festival, I could take my hat off and no one would recognise me, and people would ask me to take photos of them with Matt.
That's
and I'd
amazing.
be like, yeah, of course. So I found my my Clark Kent glasses there, I suppose.
Oh, that's amazing.
And it was just really good. It's good to go and be at really comfortable festivals where like you can go and have fun without people staring at you.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
Yeah, for the sort of headline clubby shows, I don't know, I don't spend that much time in sweaty clubs. I like a outside festival, like daytime thing. I suppose I'm probably getting a bit old, but
well, yeah, we were going to ask, like, where's your night? Where do you like nights out now? What's your vibe?
Daytime festivals, absolutely. Quieter. There's a festival in the Netherlands called Liquidity, which is nice, predominantly Liquid lineup, nice spacious festival. It's not like they've sold as many tickets as they can to cram as many people in. It's like nice relaxed atmosphere. So that Hospitality on the Beach a couple of years ago, those sort of like holiday trips that is like go out in the day, but to play like our headline tour in England, that can't be beat. That's like, it's nuts, like taking our own production into venues and stuff, and it's sort of like a bit more like a headline show. It's mad because everyone there's come to see you, and you're like, what the, see the queue before you get in, and you're like, what's going on?
That must be surreal.
Yeah, it's mad.
And has there been any standout venues? Was there any standout ones on your tour?
Yeah, the one in Bournemouth is can't remember what it's called. I think it's the O2 in Bournemouth. It's like an old, is it like an opera-y looking place, a really old looking building anyway, and it's so cool, and the production in there looked like so sick because they've got all these old sort of beams and like balconies and stuff, so that was great. But that's just off a architectural vibe rather than a vibes one. But that stood out to us as looking at that crowd in such a great sort of building was.
Yeah, the architecture definitely matters, doesn't it, when it comes to buildings?
It's not spoken about enough in drum and bass, the importance of architecture. Yeah.
I remember that in Liverpool, have you ever been to the Bombed Out Church before when they do nights in there? That's a surreal venue because you're in an old church with no roof and the lights in it, and I always think that's just a magical venue.
Yeah, that's sick. That's probably why I love festivals. Like outside spaces can be, it's just cool. It's just a bit more unique, isn't it? Than like you can go into a dark nightclub again and again. Yeah. And get lost in them. You can be like, what room am I in Fabric, or like Egg or something like that. But those sort of amazing outdoor venues are definitely can't be beat. A good festival, a good daytime set.
Yeah, it also feels like special daytime festival because it's like you don't get a chance to do that every weekend, or like we don't get a chance to do that every weekend. So it's always a bit more magical because you appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Everything's better if the sun's out.
Yeah, 100%.
So, yeah.
Can't beat the UK on a sunny day.
No.
There's just not an atmosphere like it. Couple that with some liquid drum and bass and you've got yourself a winner.
You have.
I was actually quite interested to know what kind of artists you're keeping an eye on at the moment. Is there anyone that's like bubbling up that you're enjoying?
Yeah, well, I mentioned him before, but there's a jump up guy called Boo he's killing it. He's like making some heavy tunes that are just party tracks, like just pure sort of capture everything about going out and listening to drum and bass. And then like on the more melodic side, there's a guy called Monroe who we book as much as we can, and we just think he's amazing. And he's starting to get like a bit of momentum. There's just loads. There's a lot of people, especially since last March, that have just been in the studio. So there's a lot of good music coming out.
Yeah,
and
we haven't really
as soon as
chatted
they can
about
go out.
We haven't really chatted about like the pandemic, which is quite refreshing. But
it is quite refreshing, isn't it?
Have you managed to produce? Well, obviously you produce great work, but like be creative during this time.
Especially like we wrote so much music to the point where we're now like everything we're making, we're like, until this is out, we're just making more of the same sort of stuff because we've got so much there. But yeah, we really tried to sort of make the most out of it as soon as possible because we really struggled to find the time to get in the studio before lockdown. So we were like, brilliant, we're going to make the most of this.
Yeah.
Do as much as we can, quick as possible. And then it was like October. We're like, okay,
we're ready.
We've definitely had enough time in the studio now. Can I please leave?
Yeah, let me play some of them in a club.
Especially with you listening back to your stuff and you're just like itching to get like to play it in front of an audience.
Yeah, it slows down the whole process.
So is Matt playing that?
Yeah, Matt's. I'm a bit jealous of him. I mean, he's had to do 2 weeks quarantine. Yeah,
that's a lot, isn't it?
Which is quite savage. But he's going to get that refreshment of sort of playing music in the sun in the middle of the day in New Zealand. Like it's the best place to play drum and bass. So that will really relight that sort of motivation in him. I've got some gigs in the summer, social distance things that I hope will do the same. But it is that missing people hearing your track is the feedback that you need for the music you're making. Without that, it can be like, is this good? I don't know.
Yeah.
And you doubt yourself basically. So as soon as we can, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So it's getting out in front of people and playing it is such a key part of it.
Yeah. And also there's a petition to start a drum and bass day. I just wondered if that's something that you're getting behind. Do you know much about that?
I hadn't heard of it. Yeah. What is it? Do we get a day off school and stuff?
So the Blast UK has created a petition to officially recognise April 17th as Drum and Bass Day, which is the date 17 of the 4th? 17th of the 4th? Yeah.
174.
Yeah. So it's chosen as a reference to 174 beats per minute. But you can actually sign a petition on change.org
to actually officially.
It would be recognised as Drum and Bass Day.
By who? The Queen?
I also think do we need to get it officially recognised, or if everyone just goes with it?
Someone needs to tell the Queen about it. Yeah. She needs to know. But,
I feel like she'll be into it.
Yeah, I'll sign that. I'll sign that. I've got time to sign some stuff. So yeah.
Well, I'll send it you after this.
Yeah.
But I think it's not. I think it has to get 2,500 signatures. And I'm sure it will after this.
Yeah.
but it's not that far from the target, so
Okay.
it could be a nice day, especially next year when we can properly do something on 17/4. I'm sure there'll be drum and bass events popping off everywhere.
Yeah. Does anyone know what day that's going to... Is it going to be like a Wednesday or something?
I don't know. Let me look at my calendar.
Yeah, get your calendar.
Do you know what I mean? It's going to be... That's going to dictate the success of Drum and Bass Day, isn't it?
Oh, it's a Saturday.
Oh,
that's just screaming for a day event, isn't it?
Yeah, let me see. So is that next year is going to be on a Sunday? Because it's not a leap year, is it?
Don't know. Well, that's a good start, isn't it, for the Drum and Bass Day?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, good. Yeah, they've chosen
good anniversary.
Yeah, and it all fits so well. But I wanted to see if you knew about that, but now you don't. You can sign the petition.
I do now.
Yeah.
You've made me aware, and I'll be signing that.
So you said you got some shows in the summer. Is there anything you're particularly looking forward to? Or you've got 15 events minimum.
I don't know. Like our whole approach, mine and Matt, from day one of lockdown was nothing will ever happen again, and if we get that in our heads, we won't be disappointed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm really hopeful that our headline show at Brixton in October will happen. I think it's looking like it's going to happen. In my mind, that is the day. That's the day where either events are happening or I'm going to be really, really cross.
That's
and
the last straw.
Everything before then, this summer, all the festivals, all these amazing bookings we've got, I'm like, I'm not even going to think about them until the week of them, because I don't want to get excited about them and they all get cancelled, basically. So as long as, touch wood, Brixton happens in October, I'm sweet.
Where's that? Is that the O2?
That's the O2, yeah. So it's our biggest ever show. It's like lockdown happened at the worst time for us. I suppose it happened at the worst time for everyone. But it was the week of our headline show at Printworks, which was our biggest ever London show. And it sold out. It was like the moment of our career, basically. And then it was like we had all special guests lined up and all sorts. And yeah, it was like, nope.
Oh, wow.
So like that headline London show is going to be where we left off. So it's like the moment for us that needs to happen at some point. And I mean, it's been delayed by a year and a half now.
Yeah, it's years in the making.
Yeah.
God, I can just imagine the crowd, how like excited, how ready they are to be there as well. It's going to be epic.
Yeah, and everyone's been so good about it with like transferring tickets, because we moved the date to another date at Printwork, and then we moved it to O2, and like most people just kept their ticket, which is great, because I mean, to have like 3,500 whatever tickets sold, it was like, if we move this event, is everyone just going to say nope, give me my money? And then it's like we just lost sort of that sellout London show. But hopefully we get it. Anything before that, brilliant.
Yeah.
Like all these festivals we're getting, and we were supposed to do a Ibiza residency as well in last summer and stuff that just didn't happen. So maybe that will happen at some point next year. Maybe I don't know. Like, I think as soon as restrictions come off of stuff, it's just going to go mad. Because our bookings have gone mad since they brought this roadmap out.
Yeah, from a Skinnell point of view, it's been a great couple of weeks. Like, so exciting seeing all these events being listed for so many different types of events, and even just like everyone's kind of attitudes are so much more like positive from that roadmap announcement.
Mine as well. And I'm a bit like telling myself, hey, this is the this is the government that told you this, Josh. Don't you let them get your hopes up again.
Yeah,
so
like holding your breath, isn't it? Like,
yeah, it really is. But I mean, we have to have some positivity, and any event is getting rescheduled anyway, so like they will all happen at some point.
Yeah, exactly.
And obviously Ibiza is big for electronic music, but I think I always associate it with like house, techno, and but then when I went to Amnesia, obviously they have a drum and bass room, don't they? And you have to walk through the drum and bass room to get into like the like house techno room. So what's your experience like in Ibiza? It's probably
I've never
different.
been. I've never been. So the first time me and Matt were ever going to go to Ibiza was going to be every Monday for 3 months.
Wow.
That is how to do it, isn't it?
Like, and with our own night, like doing all the lineup and stuff. So that would have been mad.
Where was
that? Eden.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening with it. If it's being rescheduled, if it's moving, if whatever. Like, nobody knows anything. But I think we will eventually get out there, which would be great. Would have been nice. We could have had a villa every Monday, you know.
Imagine.
Yeah,
that's how to do summer, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
Ibiza every Monday.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, you'll have to let us know how you find it.
Yeah,
how you find the island. So we've got a question that we ask every guest, and basically it's, if you could go out anywhere with anyone, where would you go and who would you go out with?
I can't wait to go to the pub with my friends, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like at the minute, that's going to be a good day, isn't it? For everyone.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be sunny, hopefully, on that day.
It's got to be sunny. That's a definite, isn't it?
It's going to be, like you said, we've all been holding our breath. That's going to be like when we stop holding our breath. So that's the only thing I'm thinking about. That's the next good day.
Yeah.
Is that one. And then, like, who knows, maybe we'll get to go to clubs.
Yeah.
And then I can't even think about that right now because that's too much excitement.
Yeah, I know what you mean. One step at a time.
Yeah.
I like your attitude.
The first festival.
I think I'll cry when I walk into a festival.
It's going to be exactly. It's going to be such a moment. Seeing all our friends again within the scene that we're used to seeing every weekend, going and doing a gig with them, and just like on like a nice sunny day, nice festival or whatever. It's going to be emotional. I think.
I don't even think when I first sit down in a beer garden, I don't think I'm even going to say a word. I'm just going to watch everyone around me and just feel so content.
Because the thing is, the vibe's good in a beer garden and a festival. Like, can you imagine it after all this time apart? Like,
literally every day out is going to be like going to a birthday party when you're in year 6.
Yeah.
It's like, it's going to be the one. It's going to be great.
That's such a good way to describe it. I love that.
With or without the bouncy castle.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't even matter.
Might get a bouncy castle. That would take it to a whole new level.
God, I couldn't cope with that. Too much.
Jeez,
too much.
Imagine.
Well, it's been really great. Thank you for talking us through drum and bass as well. Like, this has been a new perspective for us. But thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. And we're really crossing our fingers for Brixton in October.
Yes.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's been good.
Good. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
See you later.
Cheers, guys. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Going Out podcast with Skiddle. Don't forget to like, rate and subscribe wherever you hear this podcast.
Thank you.